If you're an athletic trainer, coach, athletic director, or just someone who works in a California school, listen up. The CIF, or California Interscholastic Federation, has just announced a new mandate. It concerns new procedures for extreme heat, a measure called wet bulb globe temperature, heat acclimatization. Now, I know you're going to stop me right there. I know exactly what you're thinking from an athletic trainer or coach's perspective. Great, just another thing that I have to take responsibility for and worry about. But if you hear me out, you'll start to see why adopting this new unit of measurement is so important. And some of the solutions are quite convenient too. This is everything you need to know about the new CIF bill and its associated policies. It's crucial for your role as an athletic trainer and coach, and it's designed to ensure the safety and well-being of your student athletes. Let's get right into it. So just recently, the CIF passed a new bill that implemented new policies regarding heat stress and the safety of athletes during extreme heat. But it's more complex than just a bunch of numbers being thrown up. It's a whole entire new system. So the new bill requires schools to use WBGT, or wet bulb globe temperature, to monitor heat for safer practices and games. Now, you're probably wondering what WBGT is, and I'll get to that in a second. Along with WBGT being used as the new standard for heat measurement, schools also must use modified practice schedules, monitor athlete health, have heat illness prevention plans in place, have a 5-day acclimatization period, and an emergency action plan for the worst case scenario when it comes to heat stress. Now, I know that seems like a lot, because it is. However, heat is the most frequent related climate killer in the United States, with more deaths than tornadoes, floods, and cold temperatures. More than 9,000 high school athletes are treated for exertional heat illnesses annually, and at least 50 high school football players in the United States have died from heat stroke after falling ill on the field in the past 25 years. The great thing is that these injuries and deaths are easily preventable, and wet bulb globe temperature is the key factor. So, what is wet bulb globe temperature? Well, it's pretty simple. It's a more accurate representation of how extreme heat can affect the human body. The heat index only tells you how the temperature feels to the human body in a shaded area, which doesn't really give you the full picture. Wet bulb globe temperature aims to improve the accuracy of heat index by factoring in not just temperature and humidity, but also factors such as wind speed, sun angle, and cloud cover. This holistic assessment more accurately represents the effect of extreme heat on the human body, and in turn allows athletic trainers and departments to effectively schedule practices and competitions that minimize the risk of injury. Military agencies, OSHA, and marathon organizers have been using wet bulb globe temperature for years, and it's most useful for outdoor workers, athletes, and pretty much anyone performing strenuous outdoor activities. In fact, Georgia has already beaten most of the United States, including California, in adopting WBGT as the new heat stress measurement standard. According to an article published by the Journal of Athletic Training, before Georgia implemented WBGT and heat stress policies, they led the country in heat-related deaths of interscholastic football players, including the death of one in 2006, which received extensive media coverage. But after switching to WBGT, heat syncope and heat exhaustion illness rates decreased by 35% to 100%, depending on the wet bulb globe temperature category, over a 3-year period after the Georgia High School Association revised its policy to mandate a 5-day acclimatization period with no practices exceeding 2 hours and the use of wet bulb globe temperature based activity modification. So to be clear, this isn't just some new concept that a bunch of weather guys came up with last year. It's a proven metric of measurement that has already been used to prevent heat-related injuries and in some cases death. Okay, so we know what wet bulb globe temperature is, but unfortunately it's a bit more nuanced for schools in California. Geographically, California is big, like really big. It's so big, in fact, that many regions have their own specific varying degrees of heat intensity. Because of these varying degrees of heat intensity, people in different regions experience heat stress at different thresholds. We call this heat acclimatization. It's basically the individual's ability to adapt to hot environments. For example, an athlete in San Diego, California will acclimatize faster than their counterparts in San Francisco because they simply live in an area with high temperatures on a daily basis. Because of this, different regions in California have to be separated into 3 different categories based on regional heat variations. Some of these factors include climatization, athletes' ability to adapt to hot environments over time. And the second biggest one is the geographic variations. The intensity of heat waves in different regions can vary. So Southern California typically experiences more frequent and intense heat waves, which is reflected in the higher WBGT thresholds than in the north. If you want a full breakdown of the categories, you can head to the PerryWeather website, which is linked below. There we discuss each category in greater detail. Basically, all you need to know is that each category has different heat thresholds that determine when and how to modify and adjust practice schedules, events, and competitions. So now that we finally have all the pieces to understand the new measurement system, we can break down the most important aspects of the CIF bill and the solutions available to make sure your department and school are ready for the changes. So the first is modified practice schedules. Basically, schools must schedule outdoor practices during cooler times, like early morning or late evening, with frequent breaks and shade. Schools also must postpone or cancel practices and/or competitions during extreme heat. Pretty self-explanatory. Additionally, trainers can gradually increase the intensity and duration of practice sessions over 10 to 14 days. That way, you're not sending those kids out to do conditioning and then having some sort of heat-related illness because they haven't acclimatized fast enough to the hot temperatures. The second key factor is to monitor the athlete's health. So coaches, trainers, and athletes must be trained to recognize the sign of heat exhaustion and stroke. Student athletes who display signs of heat illness must be removed from a practice or game and may not return until they have written clearance from a healthcare provider. The third key factor is a heat illness prevention plan. Schools must invest in WBGT monitoring tools to take wet bulb globe temperature readings. Schools must have something like an ice bath or special cooling wraps on hand to treat heat stroke and other heat illnesses. And coaches and athletes must learn the importance of taking regular water breaks during practice and games and recognizing the signs of dehydration. The fourth key factor is that there is a 5-day acclimatization period. Basically, outdoor sports have a 5-day warm-up and acclimatization period, and practices will be shorter for the first few days and gear will be limited. This is, again, to prevent heat illnesses when student athletes are coming back out onto the field and haven't quite adjusted to those high temperatures just quite yet. And the fifth key factor to take away from the new bill is to have an emergency action plan. Each school must have an emergency action plan that includes a list of all on-site emergency equipment locations, assigned personnel, and post-emergency procedures. Plus, at least one automated external defibrillator must be readily available. Now, if you've been a coach or athletic trainer for some time, these rules will probably be pretty reasonable and most likely ones that you already follow. It's the third rule that most people get tripped up on: actually purchasing or finding a solution to measure wet bulb globe temperature effectively. So most schools use whatever is most convenient to access for weather monitoring, and that usually includes solutions like weather.com or the default weather app on your iPhone or Android. Now, these are great if you're just a regular Joe looking for a decent weather estimation throughout the day. However, for coaches and athletic trainers, precision and accuracy matter a lot more when the difference between an athlete having a heat stroke and not is a matter of degrees. These weather apps can't give you the real-time or in-the-now weather data for your area that enables coaches and ATs to make quick decisions. Again, if the coach or AT gets it wrong, the possibility of an accident significantly increases. Additionally, weather apps offer limited customization features. Coaches and ATs who use these apps can't receive notifications regarding wet bulb globe temperature when high heat arrives at their location. Oh, and talk about a headache and a half trying to get this information to multiple athletic departments and teams. If you have multiple sports teams on a large campus practicing at either end, getting the information to those athletic leads in a timely manner can be a nightmare. Multiple apps, different messaging platforms, calls, emails, hoping that people are looking at their phones at the right time, all detract from the core message getting out in a timely manner. Now, the other option for measuring heat stress is with a dedicated handheld device, the most common being the Kestrel 5400. Now, this is definitely a step up from your basic free weather app. It's designed to be portable and meant for outdoor use, and thanks to a black bulb sensor being built into the monitor, it will give you a better idea of what the WBGT is in your area. With that being said, however, it's not all peachy with these handheld devices. Firstly, most handheld devices just don't have a solar radiation shield. This is a problem because when exposed to direct sunlight, the temperature sensor reads higher than the true ambient air temperature, resulting in often average than higher WBGT readings. This happens because, for one, the device itself heats up in the sun, resulting in elevated readings. Kestrel literally admits this and states that it can't be corrected. Additionally, the handheld device's black bulb sensor is usually only around 1.5 inches in diameter, unlike a periweather station, which has a black bulb diameter of around 3.5 inches. This is a big deal because a larger bulb has a more gradual response to temperature changes, minimizing the frequent and often inaccurate spikes in global temperature readings. Again, if the wrong data is reported, it could lead to a loss of practice and game time and an increased risk of heat-related illnesses. Additionally, handheld devices have limited or no data logging capabilities, forcing users to record measurements manually, which is time-consuming and error-prone. Ultimately, it's just another thing ATs and coaches have to pay attention to, which distracts them from the real responsibility, which is ensuring their student-athletes' safety and development. So, what's the solution? In comes Periweather, your all-in-one solution to WBGT and weather monitoring. Periweather 100% takes care of everything related to wet bulb globe temperature and more. Periweather's 3.5-inch black bulb sensor attaches directly to the on-site weather station, allowing you to get a reading every 15 minutes so you can ensure you're in compliance without the hassle. This exact site-specific measurement can be the difference in preventing heat-related illnesses. Periweather also offers automatic instructive alerts and warnings based on your heat stress policies. This keeps school athletics compliant and confident in the decision making, so everyone knows exactly what to do when WBGT levels are high. Our website offers more information about Periweather, including how to create custom policies, add additional users, detect lightning, view historical data, and much, much more. So, in conclusion, I'll keep this short and sweet. Wet bulb globe temperature is the future of measuring heat stress, and the new CIF mandate proves that school entities are serious about it being the new heat standard. There might be some growing pains implementing the new system, but the decision is yours on how smooth you want the transition to be. If you want just the basics and the hassle and frustrations associated with the basic solution, go with a handheld device. But if you want the most comprehensive, seamless, and cost-effective solution for monitoring WBGT, go with Periweather. If you learned something from this video, drop a like and subscription. And if you want to see more helpful information about weather safety, feel free to head to the Periweather website. Can't wait to hear from you. See you guys.